Joining me now around the table, Imam Yahya Hendi. He's a Muslim chaplain here at Georgetown University. Father Edward Beck, he's CNN religion commentator. And we have Rabbi Matt Gewirtz of the congregation B'nai Jeshurun in Short Hills, New Jersey. Thanks very much for all of you joining. Great to have three faiths represented around the table. I want to start, if I can, with you, Imam. The Obama administration, this became an issue of contention this week, reluctant, and others, to call what we saw in Paris Islamic terrorism. Do you agree with that?
You know, for me, terrorism has no religion. Terrorism is terrorism. It's an act of terrorism by individuals, by organizations, by groups, against people, against individuals. Islamic terrorism, for me, Islam is a religion of peace, is a religion of compassion and goodness, and cannot in any way, shape, and form be in support of terrorism.
And no question that whatever it is they represent is a bastardization of the religion.
Absolutely.
But
for me, the terrorists are kidnapping my name, using my name, my beautiful religion.
And it becomes personal for
exactly,
you, I imagine.
Exactly.
But they do use religious justification. They are steeped in the text. They quote the texts. You see that often. By not calling it Islamic terrorism, does that deny, if not responsibility, deny the need for a debate within the faith to call these guys out and say, this is the real Islam, this is not real Islam?
Oh, by the way, they are misquoting the text. They are not using the text. They translate it in their own way, misinterpret it to justify their own violence. However, do we need within the Muslim community to have a very clear voice against them? Yes. And we are doing that. Believe me, we're speaking in our mosques, in our colleges, across the world. We're training our imams to go out and say no to those people in order to undermine any possibility of these people becoming the voice of Islam.
Rabbi Gewirtz, I want to ask you to see if you agree that there's been the level of debate necessary. And I just want to bring up a point, because I asked Senator Burr and Senator Murphy about this as well, that some of America's closest allies, you can argue convincingly, aren't doing enough. This week in Saudi Arabia, lashing a blogger who tried to start this very debate online. Pakistan, another close ally, sentencing a Christian woman to death for blasphemy. Do you hear the volume, maybe we could describe it as, of voices from within the Islamic faith countering this violent message?
The volume, no, but sitting next to an imam who's just expressed himself as beautifully as he did is really encouraging to me and to the members of my community. There is a great rabbi from the Talmud, the greatest body of Jewish law, Rabbi Hanina, who was under the hand of his oppressors, and he died a very cruel death. They took the Torah scroll, the ancient scripture, and they rolled him in it, and that's how they were going to murder him. And they lit it up, and as he and the Torah scroll went on fire, he said, "I'm going to die, but my words, my ideas are never going to die." And we always have to stand up for our ideas, what we're about, who we are, and how we want to express those ideas, but never through violence.
Well, let's talk about ideas, and I'll turn to you, Father Beck, because the Pope Francis, entered this debate this week, and while he talked about the importance of freedom of expression, he in effect made the point that there are limits, that if you insult someone's religion, he used the metaphor of saying if someone punches you in the face, if someone insults your mother, you might want to punch them in the face, that kind of thing. Was the Pope saying, in effect, that Charlie Hebdo went too far by depicting the Prophet Muhammad in those cartoons?
You know, my mother, Jim, always had a famous adage, and she would say, just because you have the right to do it doesn't make it right to do it.
Right.
And I think what the Pope was trying to say is, yes, you have a right, but there has to be limits to freedom of expression. And the limit needs to be self-imposed. That cultural restraint has to come societally. As religious leaders, we have to say to our people, you know what, 300,000 copies of that magazine used to be printed. Now they went and put Muhammad on the cover again, and we have 5 million.
Now 7 million, they say today.
7 million. Don't show up for that. Don't feed it. I mean, I think we can't limit it legally, perhaps, but morally, culturally, we have to say it's wrong to do it.
A judgment call. Do you agree, Imam? Do you think that these went too far?
I think they went too far. I think they have to stop it, because it is not helping what we all want to do. We want to have a civilized dialogue between the East and the West. We want to have a civilized dialogue between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam and other religions to move forward. Publication of such thing does not help feed into that. Actually, it helps terrorism. recruit more people to its lines.
Let me ask then, who sets the limits? Because this is the difficult part. I got a copy of Charlie Hebdo. I was in Paris, and I read through, and yes, the cover has Muhammad, but there are other cartoons in there. There was one that mocks the attackers' faith that they're going to have virgins, you know, the 70 virgins afterwards. Some of them are not that far off what you would see in some U.S. publications. So who sets the limit? That's the difficulty here, because who is going to be the authority? Because, you know, anything could be offensive to anybody, right? And a huge gray area in the middle.
We set the ethical limits, and we could instruct from the pulpit, because we're against this, don't buy it, don't line up for it. But we live in democracies which allow us to express opinions that in many other places in the world we don't. So I would not shut down. I don't think it's a religious leader's place to shut down these places for speech, because if you do, the line may go the other way, which will limit me from expressing myself in the ways that I want to. You know, the mother commented, this is such a great pontiff, I think we all love this pontiff. The mother comment says to me that if you're raised by a good enough mother, you want to defend her, and you are inclined to punch someone to defend her, but you don't because of the values that she gave you. And I would say the same thing applies to Muhammad and to Jesus and to Moses, that these are extraordinarily great figures who have lasted all these years. Our inclination is to want to be violent to defend them, but their teachings are great because we don't. And in the end, what we do is we are grounded religious people in their names, but never with violence at all.
So you're saying don't set the limits, in effect, let people make their own choices. Is that right?
Listen, there was a Jewish lawyer who defended the Nazis in Skokie. And the reason he did it is because he felt so strongly, not just about the First Amendment, but about the rights of Jews to express themselves. And he said, you know, obviously he hated what they were saying, but wanted to be able to allow them to speak so that all of us could be able to live in a country where any of us could speak.
Father, essentially you want to pipe in.
We just buried Mario Cuomo. And I remember when he went to see the Book of Mormon with his wife, Matilda. He said he was a little off-centered when it began, wasn't sure exactly why, and then it went on, and it came to a song, F You God, in that musical. And he turned to Matilda and he says, we're out of here. She says, I was ready 15 minutes ago. And they left. And he said, Matt Stone, Trey Parker, they have every right to make that musical, but I don't have to give money for it. I'm not going to support it. If you depict Jesus steeped in urine, remember that art controversial that we had? Do you have a right to do it? Sure. Should we show up at the museum to see it or marry an elephant dung? No. So I think as religious leaders, we say, look, they have a right to do it, but we are not going to support it. We want to raise the cultural conversation beyond that.
But that's it. Please, you go.
You know,
go
I
ahead.
want people to know that we need to set up this moral canvas within us to design those limits. That's number one. Number two, I want people to know, and I'm speaking with CNN worldwide here, that I am not saying that the publication of this cartoon means or justifies violence in any way, shape, and form. As I speak for not publishing that specific magazine or picture, I also say to Muslims, wake up, engage people with the Prophet of Islam in an intellectual, spiritual way. That is what Muhammad would have done.
Well, this gets to a practical question, because there's the philosophical debate here about whether, you know, we should err on the side of freedom of expression or on taste, good taste, etc. But there's also a practical argument. By doing this, do you give ammunition, in effect, to the attackers? Give them, you know, prod them in a way? Some have made the point that you're prodding them to attack. Is there a practical argument against this, against exercising, you know, erring on the side of not offending, despite, you know, this is a country, freedom of expression, which is a bedrock principle?
But the more we close these things down, I think the more we give them ammunition. Right. So that means I can go into any place and I could do anything I want. Yeah. And the response from a democratic society with free religious expression within that society is to narrow it. And I think that's a huge mistake.
But Matthew, don't we do it all the time? We don't print certain words in newspapers because we're going to offend. The New York Times would not put the cartoon that was just published in
Or
their
CNN,
paper.
or CNN.
So we self-censor all the time for the sake of a larger good.
So that's a journalistic choice based, in my mind, on what the Constitution lays out, and that's screaming fire in a movie theater. So if we think it's going to incite a mass riot, that's different than allowing fundamentalism to widen its reach.
But there are laws that protect the common good. You can be protesting something, but you can't do it at 3 in the morning with a bullhorn. It's against the law. There are common understandings that we have that do limit free speech. So I think it's a misnomer to say, oh, there's no such thing.
It's just when does it stop?
Mom, you'll get the final thought.
I think we have to morally censor for the sake of the common good. And number two, we do not want to help terrorists recruit more people. And publications like this will, believe me, undermine my ability to speak a voice of sanity, but it will also help the terrorists recruit more people to their lines.
You get the sense this is the very debate that we need to have more broadly in the country and in Europe. I know from being there in the last 10 years,
And in the
they're having
Muslim
it
world,
as well.
and in the Muslim
and
world.
inside the Muslim
And
world.
between
no
all of
question.
us.
And well, let's keep up the conversation. Fantastic today.
100%.
Rabbi Gewurtz, Father Beck, Imam Hendi, great to have you on.
Good to be here.